Okay, folks, deepest apologies for those issues. My goodness. This is where PC gaming can be an absolute headache. Okay, so what I was dealing with is that I guess let me go through the introductions first. What is good, everybody? It is the Godfather of VR, the ageless one of the man, Liquid Clay, and we're back for another live stream. Turn that down. Okay. Now. Okay, so back to what I was going to say is a few days ago I did a stream and the quality was okay, but I felt like it could have got better. So I started tweaking a bunch of stuff through OBS and in-game settings and within the headset, and what you saw was the end result of tweaking a bunch of stuff, and as you saw the picture, I had to blow it back up to full screen. I mean, I could have left it the way it was, but that don't look very good. So yeah, now I think we can finally putt around. Hope everybody's having a good Friday. So as always, every time there's an update for this game, I take a look at the VR. But I mean, I take a look at the VR every day because I practice. Since finding the VR, I haven't really been back online, and I kind of don't want to go back online until the VR is, fully implemented. I'll show you guys here in a second, but in all the tweaking that I've done, playing with the resolution and stuff like that, I ended up super sampling the resolution. Because the biggest complaint that I've had about the VR is in the distance, though the aliasing that I would see, the glittering edges, and I was trying to reduce that, and yeah, now I got it to a point where I'm very, very satisfied with what I'm seeing. I mean, distance is really not that much aliasing. I don't know what it looks like to you guys. What I'm seeing in the headset, it looks pretty damn good. Yeah, this looks pretty good. It is clear. See everything. But yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I've got anti-locks turned off, so I have no anti-locks whatsoever. think as far as online goes, I think if you're in the beginners class, I think they might allow you to turn on the anti-locks, but when you get to intermediate and advanced, I'm led to believe that by default they probably turn the anti-locks off. Oh. And even that can be a backbreaker, because that spin right there was enough to put a flat spot in the tires, depending on how hard you spin out. And yeah, this is clear. This is clear. This is to my liking. This is much, 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 much better. Sure, the devs have probably been optimizing it, but I also super sampled the resolution. Let me show you. So we go to Steam settings. We go back home. Where was it at? Here we go. VR settings. So I super sampled the resolution, and it's at 3704p. At one point I had it all the way up to like 4400p, but I turned it down a little bit in order to get back some performance. So that's one of the reasons what I'm looking at is crystal clear. Right now the trade-off is that at race start it can be a little bit skittish, but once things start to thin out, then it runs pretty good. With no anti-lock brakes, I definitely got to be careful, because with no anti-lock brakes, trail braking only helps you so much. Yeah, braking on this game is a totally different ball game when you've got the anti-lock brakes turned off. Yes, this is beautiful. Damn.
time to 90.69.
Beautiful. I'll show you where I messed up at on there, because what I try to do here, you can actually get away with it on ACC, but looks like you can't get away with it here. I'll show you guys what I tried to do, because I was trying to shave off a couple of tenths. Coming through this chicane right here. Clip the apex right there. And then instead of riding the rumble strips, I actually put my tires on this black tarp and lost it. At ACC, you can get away with that. You can ride that tarp in ACC as long as you don't apply throttle, but it looks like this game is trying to tell you that if you touch it, then they're going to send you off the track. So we'll set it to do a race here in a second. Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and go back in the garage. So, as you can see by the title, it says I eat, sleep, and shit LeMans, and then see the fat kid pigging out on a bunch of food, and I don't know if I've ever I don't know if I've come across a sim like this where I actually enjoy watching it just as much as I enjoy playing it. Here, I'll park it here for a second. Yeah, because this is definitely to my liking as far as the clarity and reducing the aliasing. This is definitely to my liking. But here, let me just return to the garage altogether. Lights on. Yeah, lights are on. Turn those wipers off too. So yeah, I enjoy playing this game, and I enjoy watching streams of this game as well. I mean, as far as when I'm at work, watching or listening to streams, Dan Suzuki is kind of taking up my mornings. At first, it was kind of Rory Alexander. You know, but he streams GT7 and ACC. A couple of times he mixed some Forza in there. But for the most part, he's mostly GT7, I believe, and then still throws in ACC once or twice a week. Since I've discovered not discovered, but because I was already excited for LeMans Ultimate the minute I found out about the game, and even with all the bugs and stuff like that this game had day one, I still fell in love with this game, and the more I played it, the more I fell in love with it. It's been long enough now that you would think that I would be over the honeymoon stage. I don't consider it a honeymoon stage. I truly like this game. I love this game. I think this game has a bright future. I think this game is going to hold some prestigious events. The virtual 24 hours of Le Mans, along with other events. And a lot of people seem to like this game because I'm able to find a lot of Le Mans Ultimate content. And I've said a couple weeks ago that this game has taken over as my #1 sim. It has taken over as the featured content on this channel. Where does that leave ACC and GT7? I'm not done with those games, but I can't tell you when I'll stream them again. Oh shit, the lights just came on. That's oh, that's pretty cool. Let it go back out, see what that looks like. But since Le Mans Ultimate came out, I jumped into ACC once, and all I did was just jump into Spa to do a couple of laps just to make sure my timing was still there. And then GT7, I did one daily race last week, or it might have been a couple of weeks ago at Bathurst, and spun the car out, and I just quit because I wasn't feeling it. And since Le Mans Ultimate has come out, not only have I not really played ACC or GT7, I haven't even been watching ACC or GT7 content. You guys know how I feel about GT7, the dirty racing, the terrible penalty system, the egregious microtransactions, the sometimes frustrating VR where every time I put the headset on, I gotta keep doing all this to try to adjust the headset to find that sweet spot because the headset has a really small sweet spot. ACC, heard me say it before, it's full of idiots, and I think the poor penalty system, along with the tire and damage wear models, it does not put drivers in a position where they feel like they have to be careful. They just basically dive bomb. If they get through, then they get through. If they don't and they cause a wreck, if it's an open lobby, they'll just leave. If it's a low fuel motorsports race, then they'll send you an apology. But their intent is to dive bomb, and I've had enough of that. Le Mans Ultimate, I've encountered minimal bullshit from dirty racers. In the content that I've watched, the people that stream it or put up videos, they haven't had too many encounters. I broke it down in detail more times than I can count, but the penalty system, the damage model, the tire model, the safety rating, all of it comes together to put people in a position where it is in their best interest not to take stupid chances. So let's see what. Yeah, the floodlights are on down there. My headlights are on. There's some bloom coming from the floodlights. I'm just putting around anyway. Actually, let's head on over to Sebring and do an actual race. Now, all the tweaking that I've done on this game, you know, with my headset, with my PC, with this game, I did try the OpenXR toolkit, and it did help in terms of the performance, but it came at a price. There was like a couple of black squares inside the headset that I found to be distracting. But to the credit of the OpenXR toolkit, the picture was sharper and it did run better. Now, because of I had the sharpness turned up to 80%, so I guess the glittering, the shimmering, it was there, but in the distance, and it was like the really microfine details, but it still looked good. Game's loading up. Check the chat here. Gray Beard. Let me see here. Give me a second here. Give me a second. Okay. Hey, Gray Beard, how you doing? The speech chat, for whatever reason, is wigging out.
The Graybeard Gamer said, "What's up, Clay? Man, I gotta try this in VR."
All right, there we go. I think we good now. Yeah, Graybeard. If you still happen to be watching Graybeard, I put a link to the VR tutorial in the description. Takes a whole 5 minutes. All you have to do is like go into the graphical settings of the game and like make sure like the MSAA is turned off. The FXAA, you can turn that on if you want. It helps a little bit. And then as far as Steam goes, you go to LeMans Ultimate, right click on your left window pane, right click the game, go to properties, and then when that window pops up, you'll see something that says launch options. And in that bar, you just type plus VR, and you type VR in capital letters because it is case sensitive. And that's it. And from there, you just launch the game and it goes into VR. The trade-off of this game being in VR is that I don't have the HUD in the car with me. I don't think the developers put that in yet. The MFD, the multi-function display, is not in the car with me either. All that stuff is there, flat screen. And that MFD, I absolutely need that for endurance races so I can monitor tire wear and set up the pit strategy. And you definitely can't do that if you don't have it in the car with you. Where's my gloves? Let's see here. Okay. So yeah, we'll do a couple of laps around here just so I can get warmed up, and then we'll do a race. Is that a bird? That looked like a seagull. And then that looks like a guy over there on the other side of that gate. That looks, yeah, that was a seagull. And then there's a guy down there trying to find himself. Just damn. That sun is pretty bright, so this is I don't know, maybe I should have set the race for cloudy. Yeah, this looks really, really good. Yeah, that went real well. So being that I don't have a track map in the car with me, I have to memorize every bit of this track. That's pretty damn clear. Now that sunset is a little bit distracting, but yeah, it looks good. Yeah, that looks good. Oh shit. Got caught watching the sunset drop behind the trees. All right, let's start the next session. Let's return to the garage, go ahead and actually start the race. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit skittish until things start to thin out. And since they started me at the back of the row, at the back of the grid, the AI is turned up high enough that it's hard to get past.
Green, green, let's go.
Now there's going to be that turn one pile up, so I got to stay back because the AI ain't smart enough to get through turn one without a wreck. Usually happens about right here. Yep.
True Virgil said, "What up, Clay?"
Virgil, how you doing, my guy?
Lap 2, 20.25.
Shit! Whew.
That time was a 2:03.98.
Shit. I gotta figure out a breaking point for that turn, because I'm just more or less guessing.
Great Tantrum said, "Nice metal screen there." Great Tantrum said, "How you doing, buddy?"
I'm doing pretty good. Tantrum, how about you?
Great tantrum. Said. Not bad.
Good, good, good. Good to hear it. Oh, somebody just came out the pits.
Time 2:04.31.
Great tantrum. Said. Do you know about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight coming?
Yeah. Anybody who doesn't know about it is living under a rock. You know what? I'm still not quite dialed in on this track yet, and I'll have to practice it offline. Look at, oh my God, just look how sharp that picture is. My God, my God. That looks pretty damn good.
Great tantrum. Said. What do you think about that?
I think the main purpose of that fight is to see if they can entice Tyson into having another meltdown. Let's see here. I mean, Tyson's what, almost 60 years old, I believe. I'll be 57 in a couple of months. Tyson still looks good for his age, but and then the other thing is that this fight's not sanctioned, so they could put in all kinds of crazy rules. You're just waiting for the screen to load. It does take a little bit. But in terms of the draw, the pay-per-view draw, sanction or not, this could go down as probably, it could go down as the biggest fight in history.
Great tantrum. Said. The age gap between the two. I am not sure what they are thinking. Tyson can be Paul's daddy.
He could. But again, I think part of the reason for this fight might be to see if they can get Tyson to have another meltdown, to see if Tyson can bite his nose off or something. Look at that sharp picture.
Great Tantrum said. Either Jake beats up a retired elder boxer or Tyson teaches Paul a lesson.
I think the people who put this fight together isn't necessarily looking to see who will win this fight. I think they're looking to see if Tyson will have another meltdown because, he's considered unstable. It's always going to be a turn one wreck. Right here. It's almost as if it's programmed into the game. Right there, there's a pile up there for no reason.
That time was a 2:07.58. Lap 1:49.87. 153.13.
If I want to get into the 148, I'm going to have to get past this car. They locked up the wheels. Fix the brake bias. I can't be as aggressive as I like because I have the anti-locks turned all the way off. So you can't do like you can on ACC and get to your brake marker and then just slam it to the floor.
Lap 150.37.
I'm going to be able to take him in time. Damn it, locked up the wheels.
Great tantrum. Said. No ABS is dangerous.
But that's the way it is in the GTE class. There's no anti-locks. But now that, like, for 2024, GTEs and the P2 cars have pretty much been dropped. So as hypercars in GT... Oh, well, I guess we can sit back and watch these cars come by in a very, very clear picture. So WEC, the World Endurance Championship for 2024, there is no more GTE cars. There is no more P2 cars. Although I do believe they will be allowed to compete for the 24 hours of LeMans, but in terms of the regular season, no, those classes have been eliminated. It is now hypercars in GT3. I do believe that the GT3s will be allowed to use anti-lock brakes. So this game right here is based on the 2023 season when there was still hypercar, P2, and GTE. And like I said, I don't think any of them have any anti-lock brakes. So if you're being authentic, then no, you can't turn the anti-locks on. So when I was setting all those crazy lap times, I had the anti-lock set on low, and basically I was doing the same shit that I was able to do on ACC, where you see your brake marker and you slam on the brakes and slam it straight to the floor and don't have to worry about the brakes locking up because of the because of the anti-locks. That's not the case when you don't have anti-locks. Yeah, like you said, the anti-locks, no anti-locks is dangerous. Because if you lock up the wheels, for one thing, it burns a flat spot into the tires, which affects performance. And number two, if you lock the car up and you're not in a straight line, what just happened to me will happen. You'll go off the track. So the car is damaged. I'm sure it is. Not to mention that I probably burned a flat spot. Yeah, the car's damaged. My steering wheel is cocked to the left, so I got to come in and get repairs. This element is what I love about this game. Just for the simple fact that if you go into an online race, as I said earlier, I think with the daily races on this game, I think if you're in the beginner class, I think they may allow anti-lock brakes to be turned on. But I think once you get into the intermediate and advanced races, I don't think you have the anti-locks turned on.
Great Tantrum said, yeah, you can easily lose control of the car. If you are hard on the brakes and try to take a corner, you just go straight in a wall or something.
That's the beauty of it, because because of that, you don't have a lot of that silly ass dive bombing that you see on ACC or GT7. Can't dive bomb in this game because if you overshoot the corner, you brake too late and you slam on the brakes and you lock those wheels up, even if you don't slide off the track, you'll still put a flat spot onto the tires and you're pretty much screwed. Because with this game, I think the name of the game is conserving your tires and avoid taking damage. Because if you burn up your tires or you take damage, it's going to force you to make an unscheduled pit stop, which will essentially ruin your race. So in this game in particular, especially in an endurance race, if somebody has the pace and they challenge you, it's actually in your best interest to let them go by and then get behind them and get a tow and just stay with them. If you fight them, you're going to slow each other down. It's going to allow other cars to catch up. If the cars touch, somebody goes off the track, now somebody's damaged. So with this game, it's not always about who had the fastest lap. Because even in the sprint races on this game, tire wear comes into play because once your tires get down to about 85%, you'll start to slowly feel a loss of grip. So again, all that stuff, the tire wear model, the damage model, the safety rating that you need to advance, to progress to the more advanced races, the damage model, all of it comes together to put you in a position that when you play this game, it's not in your best interest to take stupid chances the way people do on ACC. I love that. And that's why this has become my #1 sim. So they can go by. I got a whole train full of hypercars coming.
Great Tantrum said, this sim demands racing discipline.
Yes.
Whereas other racers are more forgiving and even arcade-like.
Yes. I couldn't have said it any better, Tantrum. Right there, damn near locked up the tires. And then, like, something that people don't pay attention to, when you see a bunch of cars fighting it out, and well, we took damage again. Well, I'll finish blabbing. when you get to the corner and you see 3 or 4 cars fighting it out to get through the corner, when you see smoke coming from the tires, on GT7, you see smoke coming from the tires. That doesn't mean a thing. Yes, it wears the tires out, but it doesn't put a flat spot in the tires. On ACC, you don't see smoke coming from the tires. That's a feature that is a functionality that I don't see. I don't know if it's a situation where I didn't turn it on or it's just not there. But with ACC, same deal. You can lock your wheels up, but it's inconsequential. You know, you don't pay a price for it because the tires don't wear down fast enough in an ACC sprint race for it to be a concern. Even in a 1 hour race, tire wear isn't really that much of a concern. With ACC, I think the most important thing seems to be tire pressure because that's where you get your lap times from. This game, as well as Automobile Lista 2, when 3 or 4 cars are going into any car, when you see smoke coming from the tires, that is a beautiful thing because that means somebody locked up the wheel, even if it's only for a split second, and it wears that much more of their tire out, which will come into play later on in the race. So with that being said, yes, Tantrum, you are 100% right. I think this game takes a tremendous amount of discipline. I think I got a flat spot.
Was a 5:52.46.
I'm feeling some heavy vibrations coming from the wheel, so I do think that there might be some slight damage. Oh shit. Tires. Oh, that left tire just burned up from that spin out. So
Great Tantrum said, "This is still the beta version, right?"
early access, yeah. But oof. But this game is in a much better shape than it was when it first came out. Well, this race is over, so let's go ahead and monkey around with Spa. Or did we already do Spa? And those are the tracks that I'm good at. We'll do Circuit de la Sarthe. So I feel like the developers of this game was taking some unnecessary heat. This game was actually supposed to release back in December, and then it got delayed till February. And then sometime after that, they revealed that, okay, it's still releasing in February, but it's going to be early access. It won't be the full release, meaning that the game is going to be, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be issues, and they will patch it along the way. A lot of people have speculated that the reason they did it in this manner is because the devs need money to finish developing the game. I really don't know anything about motorsports games. Because I believe I don't know if they're the developer, they're the publisher, I believe. I think Studio 392 is the developers. I feel that they released this game in the state that they did was so they could work out all the bugs in time for the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans. A couple of years ago, when the race was held on R Factor 2, the servers crashed and the entire event was just stopped. And the real life Max Verstappen went on to say that it was a clown show and he's never going to do the race again, yada, 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 because the real life Max Verstappen does a lot of sim racing during the off season or whenever he has time. I think the name of the team that he's on is the Red Line something. I can't remember. The last thing they need, because I think this is going to be the game that the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans is going to be held on, because they have the official WEC license. So only this game will be able to do the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans. Now, over on iRacing, they have the IMSA, the IMSA license, which stands for, I believe, International Motorsports Association. That's basically the North American version of the WEC, and they don't have a Le Mans over there, but they still, got a few tracks over there, Sebring, Road Atlanta. But in any case, I was starting to go off the tracks. The point is that the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans is a huge event, and the last thing they need is for this game to crash and people start having network issues, the game crashing on people, what have you. So I think they released it now and released it in this state so they can get feedback from, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? So they can test it in actual combat. And so because of that, I don't have a problem that this game released in early access. I don't know if I'll do the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans, but about 3 weeks ago, I did do the 2.4 hours of Le Mans, which was a 2.5 hour race, and I streamed it on Twitch. And I think I had a fairly decent strategy. I finished second in my class, but mainly because a lot of the other cars, they crashed out and quit. With no anti-locks, there's a few dangerous turns on this track. I mean, with anti-locks, this track is easy peasy.
Green flag, let's go.
Yeah, that turn one pileup nearly engulfed me. That was an unsafe rejoin. If we go with the pileups again for no reason. Even with AI, this might be a huge wreck right here at this turn.
Great Tantrum said, the pileup is still an issue.
Yeah, it is. AI goes brain dead sometimes. I hit the brakes too late. Basically, I had to abort. It was either that or I lock up the wheels and get a flat spot. But yeah, like I said before, no anti-lock changes the game.
Great Tantrum said, I like the fact they can wreck and not drive so much like they are on a trail track or something.
Keeping your car in one piece is the name of the game with this. Conserving tires and keeping the car in one piece. Right there. I was scared of locking up the tires again. Yeah, I'm terrified of locking up the tires, so it changed the way I totally drive.
Lap 4:46.29.
Locked up the wheel. cars are so far ahead of me. This is where I spun out last time, so we gotta try to break in a straight line. Let me pull over for a second and blab some more. So, folks, a week or so ago on my community post, I put up a poll. Give it a quick thought on the state of PSVR 2.
Said, so, what makes the Quest Pro better than the Quest 3?
Well, the Quest 3 has a better processor in it because it has a second generation Snapdragon processor in it, where I guess to put it in simple terms, I guess the Quest Pro, the processor in the Quest Pro, I guess it has more computing power than the Quest 2, but I guess the way somebody put it is that I guess the processor in the Quest Pro is the same as the Quest 2, it's just been overclocked. What the Quest Pro does better than the Quest 2 is the Quest Pro has eye and face tracking. I think it also has micro ULED panels or something like that, and I think it's got dual panels, whereas the Quest 3 has LCD panels. And that being said, because being that I have a Quest Pro and a Quest 3, I would say that the Quest Pro has, I think it has slightly more vibrant colors, and I think it has a little bit deeper blacks than the Quest 3. As a PC headset, when I connect the headsets to the PC, I feel that the Quest Pro might be a little bit sharper, even though the Quest 3 has a higher native resolution as a standalone headset. As a standalone headset, the Quest 3 games look better on the Quest 3, especially if it got the Quest 3 enhancement patch. I mean, like Red Matter 2, for instance, on the Quest 3, because it got the Quest 3 patch, it's comparable to the PSVR version of it, PSVR 2. Because for all the problems that PSVR 2 is having, in my opinion, Red Matter 2 is definitely one of the best looking games on PSVR 2. And I think the Quest 3 version of it is comparable. Quest 3 version of Red Matter 2 looks phenomenal. Asgard's Wrath looks pretty good on the Quest 3. It got a Quest 3 patch, and it's supposed to be getting like a 10 gig texture pack coming up, which is supposed to make it look even more better. Assassin's Creed Nexus looks pretty good on the Quest 3. So this Quest Pro, I pretty much use it as a PC headset. But if someone were to come to me and say, what would you get, the Quest 3, the Quest 3 or the Quest Pro, I would tell them the Quest 3 just because of the processor. So whenever you play standalone games, they're going to look better than the Quest Pro. But as a PC headset, I prefer the Pro. Oh, I didn't finish saying what made me pull over in the first place. About a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I put up a poll, and I gave a quick thought on the state of PSVR 2, that I don't really think that it's in a healthy spot right now. So I took a vote asking people if they wanted me to give my thoughts on the state of PSVR 2, and it was yes. And this was something that I struggled with because I think PSVR 2's got problems. And I think the problems could be more serious than what we think. And Sony is terrible at transparency. You know, Microsoft will straight up lie, but at least they'll tell you something. Sony won't tell you anything. If there's a problem, they just stay silent about it. And I think a lot of the silence with PSVR 2 has spoken volumes. I've noticed some things with PSVR 2 that I'm not a fan of. In the beginning, when PSVR 2 came out, I kind of told the company line. I noticed some things right out the gate that didn't set in well with me, but I still told the company line anyway. And I'm done towing the company line. I'm ready to tell it like it is. And, you know, and whatever people think of it, it is what it is. So I guess I gotta pick a date to sit down and talk about it, because I've definitely struggled with this, because I'm still just as passionate about VR as, you know, any other VR content creator. And I want to see PSVR succeed, because I felt like PSVR was what we needed in order to get those premium PC VR games back. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Sony allowing PSVR 2 to go to PC, although they weren't clear in what capacity, which is typical Sony. All we know is PSVR to PC. They weren't clear about it. It was typical Sony shit, not being transparent and not being clear, probably for fear of backlash, because no matter how you slice this situation about PSVR to PC, somebody is going to be pissed.
Great Tantrum said, "To me it depends on what games you want to play. PSVR 2 have a lot of games and many more coming. If you are a sim guy, then I can concur with you. GT7 is it?"
That's something else that I wanted to talk about as well, and I guess I'll get that tidbit out right now before I forget. And I can say this right now: if you're into Sims, I do not recommend PSVR 2. GT7 is the only sim on PSVR 2 or with VR support, and I think there's a reason for that. Originally, my reasons for thinking that was thinking that PS5 does not have enough power to run some of these more demanding sim racing games. Like I don't think PSVR 2, it definitely would not be able to run ACC because it's not that good on PC as it is. You know, I had to build a $4,000 supercomputer in order to get it look decent through a VR headset. So, while I still think the power is part of the reason why we don't see any other sims on PSVR 2, I think another reason why we don't see sims on PSVR 2 is because I think Sony will not allow it. Something that got swept under the rug with GT7 is the humongous microtransactions. What Sony and Polyphony Digital did with those microtransactions on PSVR 2, they did Grand Theft Auto 5 with those fucking shark cards. Took me a minute to figure it out. Ridiculous microtransactions on GT7. Let me go back to the garage. Or just at least do the restart race part so I
Great Tantrum said. PS5 have ACC, F123, WRC23 but no VR support.
Exactly, because
whereas on PC they do or will have VR support.
Yes, and I think, like I said, I think it comes down to two reasons why there's no support for it on PSVR 2. One is that the console may not have enough power because ACC is a very demanding game, especially in VR. As I was saying, I had to build a $4,000 computer with this 4090 in it in order to get the VR to look decent on ACC. Now, Automobilista 2 is a VR miracle. That game looks absolutely phenomenal in VR. All the other games, yeah, you gotta tweak it. You know, you might have to turn shadows down to medium. You might have to turn off, turn bloom down a little bit. All that kind of shit. All these little settings you got to turn down in order to get that balance between visuals and performance. I don't think PSVR 2 would be able to run some of those games. I think the other reason that I was saying is that Sony will not allow it. And I think the other reason why I think Sony will not allow any other sims on PSVR 2 is so Sony can have all that microtransaction money to themselves. So talking about the microtransactions on GT7, you got the Legends cars, which are ridiculous. You got like the 1972 Porsche 919 LeMans car. That car is 19 million credits on GT7. It would, if you were to buy in-game credits with real money, that car would cost you $200, I believe, to drive that car on GT7. Then it dawned on me, the reason why those microtransactions are so ridiculous on GT7 is because the PSVR 2 people were the target. Some of these people on GT7 on PSVR 2, they are getting into VR for the very first time. So to be able to sit behind the seat of a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Bugatti is mind-blowing. I've said it before, years ago, VR has made my dreams come true. I mean, this is a Corvette GTE race car. What are the chances that I would get to sit in one of these in real life? 0. This is the closest that I'll ever get to sitting in one of those cars. So in that sense, it is a dream come true. There's a bunch of people, the casuals on GT7, that are car collectors. They bought a Porsche. They bought a Ferrari. Now they want the Bugatti, and they're going to pay $4 million for that Bugatti.
Great Tantrum said. They thought they can make big money off the Gran Turismo fans.
Yes, they thought they could, but it backfired. People found a way to farm the credits, and in an effort to try to stop the farming, they crashed the servers, and GT7 was down for a day and a half. and that sparked a lot of backlash. And the backlash was so bad because not only was the servers down for 36 hours, Sony and Polyphony Digital wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't tell anybody anything. So when people started threatening to go over to ACC, now they want to start being transparent, or at least that's the way they made it look. They started talking
Great
about...
Tantrum said, and if you want those cars for free, you must grind and grind and grind.
That's the whole...
Making you want to just go ahead and buy these cars that are already on your hard drive.
That is the whole scheme of it. You want that Bugatti. It costs $4 million in credits. You don't want to grind for it because you do a daily race on GT7 and you only get paid out 30,000 credits and you need $4 million to buy the car. It would be easier just to pay $10 for like $2 million worth of credit, or pay $20 for $4 million worth of credits and then just outright buy the Bugatti. And now that you driving the car in VR, your dream has come true. And then they got the VR showroom where you can walk around the car and see the car, you know, in VR. It's a dream come true for some of these people that fantasize about driving some of these exotic supercars. And for some of them, PSVR 2 has made that dream come true, and they probably want to collect cars. So for the car collector that's playing GT7 in VR, they've probably spent easily a couple of $100 on microtransactions. In my case, I've only spent $30 on microtransactions because I only deal with race cars. The race cars are reasonably priced. The race cars are about 450,000 credits, and based on the way their pay scale, pay scale is, you know, converting real money to in-game credits, that equates to about $5. So I drive race cars. I do not like driving production cars.
Said, though VR looks good on GT7 but yet hampered with bad reprojection, right?
That is correct. That was one of the things that I plan to talk about when I talk about the state of VR, was my first impressions.
Great Tantrum said, it shows PS5 is not powerful enough to run GT7 VR native 90 FPS.
They had to take so many shortcuts. Okay, look, let me show you something. Let me set it for start driving. I'm going to show you something real quick. Okay, look. You see how I'm changing these different camera angles? You can't do that in GT7. You're inside the car and that's it. You can't go through these different camera angles. You don't have an option. Here's the other thing. Now, I shouldn't do this. I think my headset's getting low. Oh, no, actually, that's my phone. I shouldn't do this because it might break the immersion, but I'm going to physically step out of the car in real life. And as you can see, the car doesn't have a tire. It doesn't have a rear spoiler. There's no windshield there. But my point being is, on ACC Automobile Lista 2, in this game here, I can physically step out of the car in real life. You can't do that on GT7. If you attempt to get up out of your seat, the entire screen will turn black, and then the car will turn into a green wire frame. See, now that I'm back in the car, you see that the car's got windows because you see the streaks from the wiper blade. But my point is that Now, coming back to these different camera angles right here, that I can cycle through these different camera angles, I think the reason they don't do that on GT7 is because it takes up more resources. Another thing that they didn't do on GT7, well, it's not here either, but we know it will be. On GT7, you don't have the standings. You don't have the inside the car when you're in VR. Like when you're playing flat screen, you have the relative standings. You know, it shows who's in first place and what the delta is between you and the car in front of you and the car behind you. You don't have that inside the car. You have no idea. You don't have any idea. There's no relative standing inside the car. So the car that's in front of you, you don't know how far they are in front of you, and you don't know how far the car is in back of you. The reprojection, yeah, we know about the reprojection. Now, I will say, when you're standing still, GT7 is sharp. It's a good sharp picture. It is comparable to PC, but as soon as you go around the corner and that reprojection kicks in, that's when you start seeing all that ghosting that makes it look blurry. So that being said, when the day that I got the PSVR 2 headset, I did an unboxing. I did a live unboxing, and I had to download Horizon Call of the Mountain. So while I was waiting for that to download, I decided to jump into GT7. When I put that headset on, that game was a blurry fucking mess. I said, what the fuck is this shit? I was thinking to myself, Sony has got to be fucking nuts to want people to pay $550 for this blurry shit. And then over the next coming days, that's when people was coming out with these videos that, okay, turn the HDR down, recalibrate this, do this, all these, you know, all these little minor fixes. It reduced the blur, but it didn't get rid of it. It reduced the mirror, but it didn't totally get rid of it. Then when I jumped over to Horizon Call of the Mountain, same thing. It was a blurry fucking mess. And this is where, if people want to get on my case, I accept it. GT7 was a blurry fucking mess. Horizon Call of the Mountain was a blurry fucking mess. And at that point, I should have been telling people, do not buy this shit. But I still told the company line because I wanted to see VR succeed. I wanted to see PlayStation VR succeed. So I skated around it. When people were asking me, is it worth it? My answer was always, it's good for what it is.
Said. So, it was a bad taste in your mouth from the word go.
Yes. And then you had a string of games like Green Hell VR, Hell Sweeper, games that came out broken and blurry, games that overpromised, games that over-delivered. We had that situation with Project Wingman when everybody thought that, okay,
Great Tantrum said. Brian Paul thought GT7 looked great and was very excited, if you remember.
My thoughts on GT7, like I said, it would look like dog shit the first time I put the headset on. But after following a few of those videos, and I was able to reduce the blur, reduce the mirror, and I had to turn down the HDR because the whites were bleeding over into the blacks. When I turned all that shit down, I was able to get PSVR 2 to a tolerable state. But it still does not have the sharpness. I think Sony made a bad decision to go with the Fresnel lenses, but from what people are saying is that pancake lenses and HDR, like pancake lenses and HDR, don't work. In my opinion, fuck that HDR. Take that HDR out, take the OLED panels out, and give everybody pancake lenses. Because I will take a sharp picture every day of the week. over this small sweet spot that's about the size of a fucking pupil, and then everything else is blurry shit. Even with the foveated eye tracking, even when you look around and it's supposed to make everything clear when you still look outside of the sweet spot, shit is still blurry. But throughout all that bullshit, I never told people to go out and buy a PSVR. When they asked me if it's worth it, I just kept saying that it's good for what it is. I was trying to tell them in so many words that if you wanted the best experience, build a PC and buy a headset that has pancake lenses.
Great Tantrum said, I thought Fresnel lenses are there because Sony didn't have the technology. It was a very new technology.
I thought the Fresnel lenses have been used since the beginning of, the VR dinosaur age. Pancake lenses are the industry standard right now. There's only a handful of headsets out there right now that don't have pancake lenses. Quest Pro, Quest
Great
3
Tantrum said, I doubt pancake lenses hinder OLED or HDR.
I don't know, because I don't know that. I think when people were saying that...
Green, let's go.
Here, I'll pause right there. I felt like Sony went with the Fresnel lenses as a cost-cutting move to try to keep the price of the headset down. Because if Sony would have put pancake lenses in PSVR 2, I think they would have had to charge at least $600, or at least that's what they were going to charge, because Sony refuses to take a loss on PSVR 2. So I guess I can tell you right here, right now, I'll end up repeating a lot of this same shit when I eventually have an official podcast to talk about it. But I think this PSVR to PC thing, I think this is a last desperate move by Sony to try to sell headsets before they are forced to cut the price. Because I think what the situation is when that report came out a long time ago that Sony had cut their projections, that they originally expected to sell 2 million headsets at launch, and they cut it in half and expected to sell 1 million, and they didn't even do that at launch. I think what the situation is, I think that Sony has a warehouse full of headsets sitting around that they can't sell. And I think they're making one last ditch effort.
Great Tantrum said, the PS5 is now $399 where PSVR 2 is still $549.
I never liked that theory from the start. I said that during the original PSVR. And I will call him out. Rowdy Guy that was part of F Reality podcast. Now, way back when I was on the VR link with Gamertag and Salsa and 7 Degrees of Gaming, we talked about the price of PSVR, and I had said that the peripheral should never cost more than the base. I put it in a different term. I said the custom wheels on your car should never cost more than the car itself. You should not have a situation where you bought a car for $500, but you got $5,000 custom wheels on it. And Rowdy Guy was in the chat, and he felt like that analogy didn't make sense. And I just said, I'm not even going to try to explain it to him. But I said that way before. When PSVR first came out at $500, I was like, damn, that's expensive. But the thing that made me accept it was because it was the cheapest of the three. When PSVR first came out, it was $500. The Oculus Rift CV1 was $600, and the HTC Vive was $700. The PlayStation VR was the cheapest of the three, but it was also the weakest of the three because it was connected to a weak console. Now, fast forward to this PSVR 2 to PC thing that I was about to start out saying. I think Sony is going to let this headset go to PC and allow people to buy it and connect it to their PCs, because I believe that Sony has a warehouse full of headsets that they cannot move, they cannot sell them, and they need to get these headsets out of this warehouse and into people's homes. So they're willing to accept that, yeah, if you have this headset on PC, we won't be able to make any money off of you because you're not buying games off of the PS5, but at least we get rid of these headsets. I think once, like, when they try that and then they sell a minimal amount of headsets, then they're going to cut the price. I think this PSVR to PC thing is Sony's last desperate move before they finally have to cut the price and actually have to take a loss in order to get rid of those headsets that are laying around. That being said, once they clear out this warehouse and get rid of all those headsets, I do not think Sony is going to mass produce these headsets anymore. I think they are only going to manufacture them on an as-needed basis.
They will be going up against Quest gamers.
Agreed. That being said, you know, naturally I got PSVR 2. But if I didn't have PSVR 2, making a headset go to PC is not going to make me buy it, because I'm more than happy with my Quest Pro and with my Quest 3. I got an HP Reverb G2 sitting over there, and I've got an Oculus Rift S in the bedroom, along with a couple of Quest 2s laying around. And with these pancake lenses that also have eye tracking, why the hell would I give this Quest Pro up for PSVR 2? It would be, to me, it would be taking a step backwards. The only thing I gain with PSVR 2 over PC VR is the HDR. If I decide that I like HDR, but I could give two shits less about HDR, and the haptics within the headset and the controllers. I will admit, playing Pavlov on PSVR 2 is fun. One time I was playing it and I got shot in the head, and I felt the headset vibrate. But other than that, no. I also think that this, I'm going to end up regurgitating all of this. I'm basically giving you the podcast right now. I think another possibility of PSVR to PC, people have speculated that Sony might do something like a virtual desktop type thing where you're using cloud streaming to be able to access PC games from your PS5. Or people are speculating.
Great Tantrum said, people who own a Quest 3 likes it better than PSVR 2 due to much better lenses and the bigger sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. The bigger sweet spot, the bigger FOV, the processing power as a standalone headset, and the ability to use it as a PC headset. The Quest is basically two headsets in one. You can use it as a standalone headset, or you can use it as or you can use it as a PC headset. The PSVR needs to be attached to something. If I said that right, yeah, PSVR, it needs to be attached to something. It needs to be attached to the PS5, or if Sony allows it, it's going to need to be attached to a PC, not a standalone headset. I could not recommend it in this current state. And then we also have the lack of a rollback from Sony. Sure, we got a ton of games this first year. And there's a lot of games coming up next year. But how many of those games are Sony first party titles? How many of them are even timed exclusives from Sony? What about the layoffs that's happening at Sony? In the Twisted Metal game that was in development that got canceled, a lot of people speculated that game was going to have VR support. Once again, other than telling us that they are working towards putting PSVR 2 on PC, we have got no roadmap from Sony and no transparency, which is Sony 101. They do not talk to us about shit. When shit is fucked up, they just won't tell us about it. They just stay silent about it. At least Phil Spencer is willing to come out and damage control. You know, at least he's willing to come out and tell somebody something, even if we know it's a lie. Here's a case in point with the lack of transparency with Sony. Okay, with PSVR 2, there was speculation, and I think even Sony may have even hinted at it, that with PSVR 2, we would be able to use the PS5 camera in the same manner of what I'm doing right now, the way I've got my webcam set up right there. People speculated that you would be able to do the same thing with PSVR 2, so it was speculated that Sony would be giving creators creative-friendly tools in order for them to have good streams and promote PSVR 2. And I think that's fucked up that Sony did not market the PSVR 2. I think they relied on us to promote it. They relied on all this damn free advertisement, all of us. I screamed PSVR 2 to the mountaintops. I don't have the success of my friend Gamertag or my friend Steve Knows, but I still worked my ass off just as much. I screened PSVR 2 to the mountaintop.
Great Tantrum said, if PSVR 2 fails, it is because Sony failed. Even the most fanatic PSVR 2 fan, they would admit that Sony is crap when marketing the VR 2.
I said it on Twitter. They leaving all these damn Twitter blogs like it's some kind of note like it's some kind of sticky note on a refrigerator. Sony claimed to have wanted, now that came straight out of Sony's mouth. They claimed that they wanted mass adoption for PSVR 2. And they claimed they wanted people to transition from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2 ASAP. They claimed they were going to give us bigger and better experiences. I think the only game where they delivered on that was Gran Turismo 7. What they gave us, sure, they gave us the Resident Evil games, but they basically gave us what a modder would have gave us. When people like Prey Dog and Luke Ross was modding the Resident Evil games on PC, the cutscenes were always flat screen. So people were saying that, okay, when Sony does it, because of the money and the resources that they have, that the entire thing is going to be in VR. We end up seeing Resident Evil 4, the remake, like all the cutscenes are flat screen. The game isn't scary. The reprojection is there. The reprojection isn't horrible, but it's there. But the game isn't scary because every time an enemy gets ready to come out, they show a cutscene. You know, the guy with the chainsaw. There's a cutscene, and you see a guy coming with a chainsaw. Well, because it's flat screen, I'm not scared.
The way how they use blogs and then they tell you something very important, but it is written at the bottom of their blog post.
Yeah.
No commercials, no upfront speech, no nothing. Just a blog.
I feel like Sony used us.
Great Tantrum said, most people don't read blogs because they don't know or care to read them.
Oh.
Hence it gets lack of support.
But I think Sony used us. Me. Even though I'm a small YouTuber with 1,500 subs, they used me. They used Gamertag. They used Steve Knows. Any content creator, they used all of them. They knew whether Sony sent us, whether Sony would send anybody a headset. Like, you know, they sent Gamertag a headset, but they knew that people like me were going to go out and buy my own headset. And from there, they was basically just relying on us to spread the word about PSVR 2. It's hard for me to promote PSVR 2 when I see broken shit like Green Hell VR. Firewall was a dud. I haven't been back to that game since it launched. With PSVR 2, you finally gave us what we wanted, and that's controllers with thumbsticks. And you create a game like Firewall that still got button presses for everything. You gotta press a button to load your weapon. You gotta press a button to open the door. That janky ass eye tracking, trying to aim grenades, you know, and grenades is flying all over the place.
Said, and people must know you guys even exist.
In my opinion,
Great Tantrum said, you think Sony would say go check out you or without parole etc. Nope.
Sony, in my opinion, I think they got it backwards. And I'll use my friend Gamertag as an example. Because his channel was big enough that he is influential. He is I think he's a very important figure in the VR community. So I'll use him as an example to make my point. I think what Sony was counting on is that people would see Gamertag, and then because of him, they would run out and buy PSVR headsets. It doesn't work that way, in my opinion. In my opinion, those who want the headset, they go get the headset first, and then they find Gamertag. They get the headset first. Now they want to know, okay, what's all the good games? What's all the cool games? What's the games that everybody's playing? Now they jump on YouTube and start looking for content creators to see what the best games are, to see what the reviews are on the games. Now they find Gamertag. That's the way it happened with me. I bought PSVR 2 first, then I started searching for YouTubers. My son wanted the original PSVR 2 he wanted the original PSVR for Christmas. When I made the decision that I was going to go ahead and get him a PSVR for Christmas, I didn't start like looking up all these different channels and shit like that. I didn't look up anybody. I bought the headset first. I played the headset. Now I want to know what other games is out there. Now I start searching for channels. Now I find PSVR Frank. Now I find PSVR without parole. I didn't know who they were until after I bought the headset. Why a lot of people know who Gamertag is, a lot of people aren't going to know who he is until after they buy the headset. And I think people were counting on people finding Gamertag first and then his influence will have them go out and buy the headset, which would be true. But I also think my theory is true too, that a lot of people are going to find gamertag after they buy the headset.
Great Tantrum said, to be honest, I found out about VR first through YouTubers. And they showed me how cool VR is.
I think
my first YouTuber who showed VR to me was Jacksepticeye.
Oh, Jacksepticeye. I think, okay, so here's the other thing. I think the only people who will look for YouTubers before they buy the hardware. So using gamertag as an example, I think there's a lot of people who might be on the fence about buying PSVR and they're not sure whether they should get it or not. And then they might jump on YouTube and start looking for a lot of YouTubers, and, you know, and then the gamer tags, the Steve knows and stuff like that will pop up. But what I'm saying is that, so I hope this isn't coming out wrong, but what I'm trying to say is that if they already have their mind made up that I want PSVR 2, they're going to go get the headset first. And then after they get some time in with the headsets and they start getting curious about what are the hot games and shit like that, then I think they're going to go on a huge search for a bunch of content creators. So to put it in one sense is they're going to find gamertag. They're going to find his channel. The question is will they find him first and his channel encourages them to go buy the headset, or will they buy the headset first and then find his channel because they want to know what games they should play? And I think Sony counted on people finding him and other creators first and then go buy the headset. And in some cases that would be true, but I don't think it's going to be like that across the board. But no matter how you slice it, Sony used us to promote this headset when they should have been marketing the shit out of this headset. With the Quest 2, you've seen like on YouTube, if you don't have YouTube Premium, every 5 minutes you see a goddamn Beat Saber ad come up. Meta, Oculus, Facebook, whatever you want to call them, they marketed the shit out of the Quest 2. There's no accident that headset sold almost like 20 million headsets. When it boils down to it, I don't think Sony really marketed the first PSVR that well. Their marketing consisted of you being able to go into Best Buy or GameStop and sample it yourself.
And the average buyer probably don't even go and watch the channels. I keep seeing people say, is there any info out there, and people point them to the channels.
I would agree. I really believe those original reports when it was reported by the media that Sony had pretty much.
Tantrum said, they need to be lead or given a guide. They are all on their own in research about VR.
Let's put it this way. Sony marketed the shit out of PS5, the console. They marketed the Spider-Man game. Commercials. A whole fucking subway painted with a Spider-Man paint job on it. And we get a goddamn sticky note on the refrigerator. you know, for PSVR. I believe that when the media was reporting that Sony cut their projections in half, that they originally expected to sell 2 million headsets, and that they cut their projections in half. And Sony, in my opinion, I think they damage controlled it. I think they came out and tried to say that no, we never expected to sell 2 million headsets. I think they did. I think not only did they expect to sell $2 million headsets, I think they expected to sell those 2 million headsets on the blood, sweat, and tears of us creators. I think they expected us to sell the headset for them. When PSVR 2, and then Sony did a half-ass job. Oh, by the way, yes, PSVR 2
Great
is
Tantrum
coming.
Said, how stupid when Sony said PSVR 2 is not our focus right now. That is a good way to kill their product.
Well, they didn't lie, because they didn't market the headset as if it was their focus. I mean, it goes against what they originally said when they said they wanted mass adoption and wanted people to transition as soon as possible. We already knew that the first year of PSVR 2, most of the sales were going to consist of loyal people that already had PSVR 1. Now what? Now that you got them out of the way, what are you doing to bring new people to PSVR 2? What reaches out and says, I gotta have this? I'm telling you, a lot of the casuals who were thinking about getting PSVR 2 but haven't done it yet, I think they were waiting for a Spider-Man or a God of War in VR. And I do not think it's going to happen, because with all the scaling back that Sony has done, with all the laying off that they have done, with the studios that they have closed, with the projects that they have canceled, I do not think that a Spider-Man or a God of War is coming to PSVR. That being said, in my opinion, PSVR 2 is a lame duck.
Great Tantrum said, they got PSVR fans out of the way. Now it is PSVR 2 for PC.
They had no choice. Anybody that wants the headset bought it on PS5. And like I said, I believe that they have a warehouse full of headsets sitting around that they can't sell. And I think Sony does not want to take a loss on these headsets. They don't want to cut the price and take a loss on these headsets. So I think this move to bring the headset to PC is a last-ditch effort to sell the headset at full price. And then once those sales dry up, then they're going to do, the next move is maybe they'll do a bundle.
Great Tantrum said, God of War was shown to be in VR, but it was scrapped for PSVR 1.
A Spider-Man in VR. God of War in VR. How many headsets do you think that those games would have sold? It would have sold them at least another million headsets. And then the other thing was, I thought, you know, there was a rumor that Sony was working on trying to bring Call of Duty to PlayStation VR. That's why I thought that Sony was trying to block the deal when Microsoft was trying to buy Call of Duty, when they were trying to buy Activision, because the fear was that Microsoft was going to buy Activision and pull Call of Duty off of the PlayStation platform. And I believe that, you know, naturally Call of Duty generates a ton of money on the PS5 because the majority of the copies are sold on PS5. And if Sony was working towards bringing Call of Duty to PSVR 2, that would have killed it if Microsoft would have owned Activision. So I thought that was part of the reason why Sony was trying to block the deal because I thought maybe Sony was trying to work on bringing Call of Duty to PSVR 2.
Great
but
Tantrum said, Metro Awakening is a big game.
But it's not a PSVR exclusive. So that don't knock my socks off. That's not a game that's going to make me run out and buy a PSVR 2. In fact, one would stand to reason that the best looking is probably going to look best on PC. Now, how well it runs all depends on your PC. But it's definitely going to be the better looking game on PC, especially if you got a headset with pancake or aspheric lenses. I'm sitting here with a computer with a 4090 with this Quest Pro as well as a Quest 3. Hell, even the Reverb G2 has a sharper picture than PSVR 2. Why the hell would I buy it on PSVR 2? I also think that some of these VR content creators are damage controlling for PSVR 2. You have a good-looking game on PC VR, and then you have some of these VR content creators saying that they're waiting for the PSVR 2 version because they believe that will be the best version. They believe that it will look better than PC. Are you fucking kidding me? By getting the PSVR 2 version.
Great Tantrum said, here is the deal. PS5 and PSVR 2 is the more affordable route. PC and VR cost thousands to get it right.
And, in my opinion, you're kind of getting what you pay for. PlayStation 5 and PSVR 2 has a lower barrier to entry than PC and a PC VR headset. At least that would be your initial. It would be your initial thought. PlayStation VR and the PS5 is much cheaper than my $4,000 PC and this $1,000 headset that I paid for when it first came out. I mean, not when it first came out, but I paid $1,000 for this Quest Pro. So between my PC and my headset, $5,000. The PSVR 2 and the PS5 is the lower barrier to entry. And you see the trade-offs, with reprojection being the biggest trade-off. Seen some of these VR content creators defend the damage control for the reprojection of PSVR 2 by pointing out the Quest that the PC VR headsets have reprojection, and in the case of Meta, is called a synchronous space warp. I believe it's synchronous space warping. That's their version of reprojection. Yes, there is ghosting there, but it is not near as obvious as PSVR 2. Some of these games...
Great Tantrum said, like you said, you went ahead and got a 4090 People with a 3080 admit VR games can struggle, whereas PS5 and VR2 is more straightforward.
If you're on a 3080, the only games that are going to struggle in VR are The Sims. A game like this, a game like ACC, Microsoft Flight Simulator, which would never run on PSVR 2, but at least they'll run on a 3080. Those are the games that's going to struggle on PSVR 2. I mean, those are the games that's going to struggle on PC. Built from the ground VR games, built from the ground up. A game like Pavlov, it's gonna run just as good. Not only is it gonna run just as good as Pavlov would on PSVR 2, because of the PC settings that's at your disposal, you can get a sharper picture out of it and it'll still run just as good. But yeah, a 3080 built from the ground up VR games. Yeah, like I said, Pavlov, Contractors, Beat Saber, all that shit is going to run just as good on a 3080, if not better. The Sims are going to struggle. And as I said
Jan Salinan said, when we go. Great Tantrum said, I now know why most VR games on PS5 look like cartoon graphics. It's much easier to render.
Yes. It doesn't tax the hardware as much. Can you imagine without the reprojection, because it would be running at 60 frames per second without the reprojection? Can you imagine how much dog shit those games would run on PSVR 2 without the reprojection? Even though we don't like it, the reprojection is such a problem on PSVR 2 that every time a developer markets their game, they have to be specific on whether the game has reprojection or not. If the game has a native frame rate, they make sure to tell you that. Blah, 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 blah. You can do this. You can play with your friends and best of all, no reprojection. 90 frames native, 120 frames native, no reprojection. If reprojection wasn't such a problem, developers wouldn't have to tell you that when they market their games. The people who returned their PSVR headsets, when it first came out, the biggest complaint was the blur. The reprojection made the shit look blurry. I mean, straight out the box, yes, it was blurry straight out the box. And you had to play with all these fucking settings to get it to a tolerable state. But that still did not eliminate the reprojection issue. There are days where I play GT7. I'm going down the straightaway and it's running buttery smooth. And as soon as I turn the corner, everything starts ghosting and turning into a blur.
Great
and
Tantrum
I just feel like taking the headset off.
You said PS5 is still underpowered. Now there is all this news that Sony is getting ready for a PS5 Pro.
I don't care.
Which you said I will not buy one, I think.
I will not buy a PS5 Pro because Sony is probably going to demand parity. They did it with PS4 and PS4 Pro. Sony basically told developers, if you put a game on the PS4 Pro, you must put it on PS4.
Great Tantrum said, PS5 Pro would make sense to eliminate the reprojection problem.
Here's the problem with that. We are already 1 year into the life cycle of PSVR 2. When PS5 Pro comes out, okay, we are hearing that these developers are outright saying, like, okay, the developers of Rec Room, they said it doesn't make financial sense to bring the game to PSVR 2. Therefore, they're not doing it. They don't see the sales there. There has got to be a lot of games on PSVR 2, especially the ones that weren't marketed, the lesser known games that did not sell very well. How many of those developers are going to go back and change the frame rate? And even if they do change the frame rate of those old games that flopped, that did not sell, they still have to spread the word that, okay, now the game is 90 frames native with no reprojection. Okay, well, now you got to get the word out. How you going to do that? The YouTubers are not going to come back. You know, they're not going to come back and spend 3 days making a video just so they can tell you that this game from 3 years ago now has a native frame rate. The developers aren't going to spend money on marketing for it. The game is a flop. They might be on the verge of shutting the servers down if the game is a flop. Why would they come back and change the resolution or change the refresh rate to a native refresh rate? Then there's the issue that Sony is probably going to want parity.
Great Tantrum said, PS5 Pro will be the mainstream console. The word will get out and there may be a chance that VR2 games will get enhanced. I sure hope that is right. But we will see.
Maybe the new games moving forward might get a native refresh rate, but the old ones, forget it. Using Horizon Call of the Mountain as an example, or even GT7, using those two games as an example. When PS5 Pro comes out,
Tantrum said, Helldivers 2 for VR would be awesome.
It would be.
But like you said, it must also work on base PS5.
Exactly. A PS5 Pro would be able to run it. And hell, might be able to run it natively. But a PS5 would probably have to use reprojection, and Sony would want it to be even across both platforms. Because of that, the PS4 Pro was a waste of money. There were games that could have ran at 60 frames per second on the PS4 Pro, but because the PS4 couldn't do it, they had to run the game at 30 frames per second because Sony demanded parity. It was mandatory to have parity across the board. You could not have a situation where you had two games, but it ran better on the PS4 Pro because it would have created an imbalance. Sony was going to want parity. Sony PS5 Pro, you're not going to have a situation where the PS5 Pro can run this game at 120 frames per second, but the PS5 can only run it at 30. No, Sony's going to have to tell them you're going to have to tone the PS5 Pro version down to 30 frames also, so it can be even across the board and nobody has an advantage. Because of that, I think the PS5 Pro is going to be a waste of money because the console will not be fully utilized the same way the PS4 Pro was not fully utilized. I barely touched my PS5. my PS5 and my PSVR 2, I barely touch them. A PS5 Pro ain't gonna make me jump up and touch it any more than I'm already touching it. The $600 or $700 that I think Sony would charge for a PS5 Pro, I think I could find better things to do with that money. Oh shit! I'm about to get hit. Look at that. It's about to back out in front of me. Look at that.
Great Tantrum said, do you think that Microsoft not going into VR may have affected Sony's VR development?
I gotta pull over and answer that question, Tantrum. Here's what I think. Going back to the original PSVR 1, I said VR is amazing. But first of all, it costs too much money. Second of all, there aren't any big enough titles to justify the price. It's hard for me to recommend somebody spend $900 for a PS4 and, in a PSVR just to play Rec Room with those type of graphics. I said it would take something like, I was thinking it would take something like Call of Duty in VR for people to get on board with VR, because that would make people run out and buy headsets. And I said, in order for that to happen, I said VR's got to go mainstream. Because there's no way that Activision would make Call of Duty in VR if it would only sell 50,000 copies. So because of that, in order for Activision to do Call of Duty in VR, there's got to be enough headsets out there to justify it. And that being said, VR needed to go mainstream. So, to answer that question, Tantrum, I'm not sure Microsoft not getting into VR hurt Sony, but I will say, if they would have got into VR, I think it would have helped the industry tremendously, because it would have given publishers another revenue stream, and it might have been worth taking a chance for them. You have PSVR, you have Meta, HTC Vive. You'd have whatever the Microsoft headset was, because they did partner up with Oculus. Remember when they promised to bring high fidelity VR to the Xbox One X, they had partnered up with Oculus. I think that Oculus was going to be the headset. The Oculus Rift S, I think, was going to be the headset on Xbox. But I think Oculus was moving too fast for them. This year, you got the Rift S. Next year, you got the Quest. The year after that, you got the Quest 2. The year after that, you got the Quest Pro. Way too many headsets in too short a time. You piss the customer base off if they got to get a new headset every year. So I think that's why the Oculus Xbox thing never happened. because I think Oculus was just moving way too fast. How many different versions of PSVR 2 did we have? The same headset was supported throughout the entire generation. During the PSVR generation, the only thing they did was come out with another headset that gave you the HDR pass-through, which meant you could leave the headset connected to the console. You didn't have to disconnect the headset anymore in order to play your games in HDR. But if you choose to stay with the original headset and didn't want to upgrade to the HDR pass-through headset, you would be fine. That wouldn't have been the case over on the Microsoft side. If they would have partnered up with Oculus this year, you're using the Rift S. The next year, you got to buy the original Quest 1 and use it as a PC headset and plug that into the Xbox. The next year, you got to buy a Quest 2. The next year, you're looking at a Quest Pro. The year after that, a Quest 3, Quest 3 Lite. And then not only that with each new headset that Oculus comes out with, the one that's at the bottom of the pole stands to be the one that's going to be discontinued after such a time. Microsoft, I think they did not get into VR because Microsoft does not want to take chances. I think after the Kinect flopped on the original Xbox One, Microsoft will not take chances anymore. So I think Microsoft are leeches. What Microsoft was going to do, they let Sony go first. If Sony would have found the kind of success that Oculus did with the Quest 2.
Great tantrum. Said. But Microsoft didn't have to go with Oculus/Meta as they had their own mixed reality headsets.
They had their own mixed reality headsets, but most of them were licensed out. Microsoft didn't build those headsets.
Great tantrum. Said. They could have released a mixed reality headset for Xbox.
Microsoft wasn't going to do it because they would not have spent the manufacturing costs, the materials and manufacturing costs. The Samsung Odyssey, the HP Reverb G2, and other mixed reality headsets. It's Microsoft's design that was licensed out to them, and Samsung and whoever else, they spent the money to manufacture those headsets. Microsoft will design a headset, but they will not manufacture it. That is the extent of Microsoft's involvement. The mixed reality store, which was supposed to be a Microsoft store, was barren. That shit was empty. So that goes back to me saying that Microsoft was not going to take a chance. Microsoft was not going to do what Sony did, where they designed and manufactured their own headset and spent billions of dollars on that shit.
Great tantrum. Said. Oh, I see what you mean. Microsoft did not manufacture. Great tantrum. Said. Huh. Now I understand it.
Microsoft was not, after the Kinect flop, the Kinect was a flop. That was Microsoft saying that's it. We're not taking any more chances. Microsoft is copycats. They won't copy hardware anymore, but they'll copy games. Fortnite, successful game. Microsoft might try to make a copycat Fortnite type of game, but they're not going to develop any hardware. And so what I think Microsoft was going to do is they waited on Sony to see what was going to happen with PSVR 2. If PSVR 2 would have been a smashing success, then I think Microsoft would have called Samsung, would have called HP, would have called Meta, and said, one of you guys get over here and set up shop. but they would not have manufactured their own headset. They would have just brought somebody else in, third party, to do it. But in my opinion, I think 2024 is going to be a flop for PSVR 2. And I think 2024 is the reason why Microsoft is not going to get in VR, from the standpoint of they were going to wait to see what was going to happen with Sony. If Sony would have jumped out the gate this year.
Trump said, in a way Microsoft did listen to the customers, as they did not want these mixed reality stuff. I watch how the public react to VR. And to be honest, most people can care less.
I think Microsoft could have changed the game if they would have gotten in VR and they would have put Gears of War and Halo in VR. I think they could have changed the game. I think they could have commanded a piece of, I think they could have gotten a piece of that pie. But that would also mean they would have had to take a chance, which Microsoft refuses to do. They will not take a chance. All right, put it this way. Let's say Sony brings us God of War or Spider-Man in VR, and PSVR headsets start flying off the shelf, and Sony maybe sells 5 million headsets in 1 year. Now Microsoft might start like, okay, wait a minute. Can we capitalize on Gears or something like that? Now Microsoft's next move might be, okay, Gears of War on PC now it gets VR support. As it stands with Microsoft Flight Simulator, the devs, they wanted to give it VR support right from the start.
Said, what I find funny is that Microsoft's still working with Meta. Now you can play Xbox games on your Quest 3.
Yeah, but it's like playing it in theater mode. You're not playing it in full 3D. You're not playing the games in VR. You're just playing a game flat screen inside of a VR headset. I don't see the benefit of that. Why would I play a Microsoft game inside this headset when I got a 65-inch TV sitting in front of me? I think Microsoft partnering up with Meta, that is not Microsoft trying to dip their toes into VR. That is not Microsoft trying to take the first step of getting into VR. No, that's just Microsoft going on this third-party kick where they want to spread their games to any and everywhere. If there was life on the planet Mars, Microsoft would try to sell their games over on the Martian website.
Said, I know. But it is still something, isn't it?
Yeah.
For people who don't own a huge TV.
If there was life on the planet Mars, Microsoft would try to sell their games on a Martian website. That's just Microsoft just trying to be third party and trying to sell their games any and everywhere. That's not them trying to get into VR. Good, runs good.
Great Tantrum said, they are using the VR community to push their software.
Yeah.
It is a revenue they think they can make money off of. Great Tantrum said, but yeah, no, actually Xbox VR games.
I still think a Halo or Gears of War would be huge in VR. Crazy as it sounds, if you want to play Gears of War in VR, my son is the closest you'll get to it, because my son created a Gears of War PvP on VR chat. That's the closest you're going to get to playing Gears of War in VR. But I will say that I gave up on that dream of us getting a Call of Duty, a Gears of War, a Halo. I gave up on that dream of us getting those games in VR. We got enough. We got enough good games at shooters in VR. Pavlov, Contractors, Breachers. Those are all great games, and those are, because of Breachers, I could give two shits less whether Ubisoft were to give us like people had wanted Rainbow Six in VR. Well, now because of
Great
Breachers,
Tantrum said, if Microsoft make Gears of War, Forza Motorsport, and Halo for VR on PC,
I would love to have Forza in VR, but I don't think it's going to happen because the ray tracing in Forza makes that game very, very demanding. I have that game. The game was a buggy pile of shit. But I'll tell you that the night race is the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen in a video game. The lights, the reflections, you see it on the car hood, you see the reflections of the other cars from the game. Like this game, for instance, if I'm running side by side with a car and I look out this window, I'll see the reflections from the guardrails and the trees and the lights on that car next to me, but I won't see my own reflection. On Forza, you will see your own reflection. And all that shit is taxing on a PC. And because of that, there is no way.
Great Tantrum said, you have to turn off ray tracing then.
Yeah. Yeah, you would. Because there's no way, especially a mid-level, especially, like, I just think that Forza would just be way too demanding. Because as it stands, I think Microsoft Flight Simulator in VR might arguably be the most demanding VR game across any platform. Even when the 3090s were the most powerful graphics cards out there, it was still struggling to run Microsoft Flight Simulator at 40 frames per second. Now you throw VR in the mix? Microsoft Flight Simulator, the biggest thing that helps the VR with Microsoft Flight Simulator is the DLSS 3, the frame regeneration. Because it basically gives you triple the frames. Now you go from being able to run the game at 30 frames per second to 90 frames per second. So the DLSS 3 or the frame regeneration, whatever you want to call it, is huge.
Great Tantrum said, I think ray tracing VR won't be a thing until maybe a PS6 or the RTX 5090 generation.
I hate to be the one to say this. I think there will be a PlayStation VR 6, but I'm not sure there will be a PSVR 3. I hate to say it, but this sudden pivot from PSVR 2 to PC, along with the layoffs, along with the studio shutdowns, along with the canceled projects, I think Sony might be about this close to waving the white flag on PSVR 2. But they're not going to say it. They're not going to say a fucking word. They just going to let everything keep going.
Great Tantrum said, PSVR 2 would still run on the PS6.
If Sony went out of their way to make sure that happened.
Great Tantrum said, and through the 6 could introduce ray tracing in some games for PS6 VR games. Great Tantrum said, or a RTX 5090 based PC will be the powerhouse for ray-traced VR games.
I can agree with that. If a 5090 gave us the sharpness that was 1-to-1 with the flat screen games, along with so the bottom line is, Forza, for instance, to be able to see one of those night races in VR where the picture is 1-to-1 with the flat screen game would be like, boom, just. I mean, what I'm looking at right here through this VR headset, I finally got it to look good. It looks good, but it's not 1-to-1 with the flat screen game. Looks good, but not one-to-one.
Great tantrum, said. Then, Microsoft touted that their next-gen hardware will be the biggest leap in any generation prior.
Microsoft lies so much that I won't believe anything they say until I actually see the actual product and somebody that hasn't been paid by them actually analyzes it. I don't know which is worse. How much Microsoft lies or Sony not communicating? Microsoft lies, Sony don't communicate. Sony's not transparent either.
Great tantrum, said. Microsoft.
Have a look at Bahrain before we get ready to wrap it up. In terms of the hardware, I would trust Sony to deliver more than I would trust Microsoft to deliver. But if there's a problem with the Sony hardware, they're not going to say anything. They're just going to act like the problem ain't even there. They may try to quietly fix it behind the scenes, but they're not going to be transparent with you. They're not going to tell you, look, we know there's a problem with, we're working on it. We're working on patches, this and that and that and this. They just not going to say a fucking word. Case in point, the reprojection in the mirror. Sony hasn't said a fucking word about that, even though the headset's been out for a year now, and everybody that speaks of PlayStation VR 2 about
Great tantrum, said. Interesting discussion. Sony is going to make it or flop VR. And Microsoft, as far as I can see, it is not interested in VR.
I think Microsoft is interested in VR only from the standpoint of that if it's going to make money for them. Because like I said, Microsoft don't want to take chances. You got a gold mine, right? Okay, there's a mountain, and it's possible there might be some gold in that mountain. Microsoft don't want to dig. Microsoft does not want to dig in that mountain to see if the gold is there. They'll let everybody else do the work and let everybody else dig into that mountain. And when they start coming out of that mountain with wheels barrels full of gold, then Microsoft will run in there and try to get some of it. But they won't do any of the work. They won't try to mine for the gold. They'll just wait for everybody to start coming out of that mine with the gold and then try to go in there and get some of it themselves.
Great tantrum, said. If Sony flops PSVR 2, then VR as a mainstream system will most likely fall, just like 3D TV or the Sony Vita before.
I think it already has. I think VR, VR as a mainstream form of entertainment, the ship is sailed. Sony was supposed to be the catalyst to that. Sony was supposed to be the reason that we would get these premium PC VR games back, because when Meta made the shift and started committing to the Quest, and when Sony started ramping down on PSVR, all the quality games were gone. We ain't seen a Half-Life Alyx or a Lone Echo or something like that, and everybody thought that with Sony coming out with PSVR 2, I was one of them. I basically thought that, okay, now people will start taking a chance and start making these premium PC VR games again, because now they have two revenue streams. They can sell the game on PC and PSVR 2. But in order for that to happen, you got to have enough PSVR headsets out there for it to make sense for the developers to develop the game. And PSVR 2, in my opinion, did not deliver. So I think that's the bottom line. VR, in terms of like these quality games, the games like Half-Life Alyx, Lone Echo, I think the only way we would have gotten that shit back is if PSVR 2 would have sold enough headsets for it to make sense for the developers, because then they have two revenue streams, PC and PlayStation VR. But like, PlayStation VR has so little traction with some of these developers, they would actually lose money trying to port games.
That is what I thought. PS5 and PSVR 2 would be the catalyst to get PC quality VR games to console. And in my opinion, I feel like PSVR 2 is on the verge of becoming a flop. If that happens, no, we're not getting those type of games. But we can really rely on the, like... Great Tantrum said. And some PCC games did come, but they are not the games people wanted.
No.
They wanted Half-Life Alyx.
Nope. We're not going to get Half-Life Alyx. Instead, what we're going to get is Quest games, and then when it comes to PC, it just looks a tad bit better. That's it. Like I said, the ship has sailed. Sony didn't put VR on the map like we hoped they would. So forget it. I mean, Valve might give us another game, because I think I have heard that they might be developing another VR game, another Half-Life type VR game. But other than that, that's it. I don't think we're going to get anything else. So us getting like another Hitman in VR, something like that, no, that's out. That ain't happening. If PlayStation VR would have sold enough headsets, then yeah, something like that could have possibly happened. As it stands, you know, the only reason we got the Resident Evil games is because Sony paid them. So, yeah, I kind of think it's over.
Great Tantrum said, yeah, PSVR 2 are getting Quest games, not quality PC VR games. That is not what people wanted or expected.
No. So, me, I'm kind of unaffected by this, because now that I've made the transition, a full-blown VR sim racer, it doesn't really affect me that much. Like, even though VR isn't gonna go mainstream, VR isn't going anywhere either. Every year at these electronic shows, it's always some sort of XR, AR, VR, MR. That's always the showcase of these electronic shows.
Said, PSVR 2 get the Quest version of games like that survival game.
All right, I gotta pull over again to answer that question. Okay, so I believe you're talking about Green Hell VR. I bought that game on PC. When I played that game on PC, I knew that the PlayStation VR version was not going to turn out good. So the game had good graphics, but it probably had the worst pop-ins that I've ever seen. Okay, so look at this ground, for instance, right there. The tan part, let's say that's sand, right? As I'm walking forward, plants would start popping up out of the ground. That's how bad the pop-ups were on Green Hell VR. I'm thinking to myself, I got a 4090. If the pop-ins are this bad on a 4090, this ain't going to be good on PSVR 2. What did we get? They didn't even get the PC version, and they got the Quest version, and it's still a broken mess. It was broken, it was blurry, it was pop-ins, it was jank, and then there was still people damage controlling. Still saying it's still, if you can get past the jank, if you can get past the reprojection, if you can get past this, there's still fun to be had. I'm like, really? Is this where the VR community has gone now? Is this where we at now? Where, you know, the VR community is starting to sound like Xbox people now, where like trash is starting to come out and they defending it and still saying it's fun, it's this, it's that. It's pretty damn good at night. Okay, let's go into a night race. Let's return to the garage.
Great Tantrum said, customers should demand more, not compromise.
Oh shit, the game just crashed. Yeah, customers should demand more, not compromise. Well, you have to vote with your wallets. Don't buy the shit and walk away. Some of them will get the message and straighten this shit out. Some of them will go bankrupt.
Great Tantrum said, you think LeMans Ultimate come to PSVR 2? Hell
No.
nah.
I do not want this game to come to PSVR 2. The reason why is because I would not want a game like this to be crossplay and I get mixed in with a bunch of people that's playing on one of these controllers causing wrecks. I would not want this game to come to PlayStation, and I would not want it. If it comes to PlayStation, just don't make it crossplay. And it's funny that I say that because I have seen PlayStation people. I had seen PlayStation people say that when Helldivers was coming to PlayStation and PC, they said that they were going to turn off the crossplay because they didn't want to be in there with PC people because PC people cheat. Well, when it comes to sim racing, I want the crossplay turned off because I don't want to be in there with a bunch of people that's using controllers on consoles and causing wrecks everywhere. So I'm going to get a session loaded up and then I got to run to the bathroom.
Great tantrum. Said. PC people got keyboard and mouse vs controller.
Well, okay. That's something that's probably applicable to first-person shooter games or whatever. But sim racing games is totally different. You know, this game here, this ain't Mario Kart. So I wouldn't want this game. If it's going to be on console, I do not want crossplay. I don't. Sorry. Call me discriminate. Call me a console bigot, whatever you want to call it. But this particular game, I would not want to play with the console people. F123 actually turned out to be okay. That's crossplay, and there's actually the people that are good at it. They're not using these controllers. They have racing wheels themselves, so that's fine. And a game like Star Wars Squadrons, when that was crossplay with PC and PSVR, that was totally fine because you had your choice of using a controller or using a flight stick, and it didn't whatever the other players were using did not affect me. But a game like this, if somebody's using a controller and they're not experienced with sim racing games, they are going to cause a wreck and pretty much destroy the session. Okay, I've got to run to the bathroom and be right back. when this game first came out, this was the track that the first daily race was on. And I can tell you that it is much, much more fun doing this track in VR. Than flat screen. So we'll putt around here for a couple of laps, and then I think I'll get ready to hang it up. So I guess that PlayStation VR podcast that I was going to do, I guess I sort of gave it to you tonight.
Green, green, let's go.
Be a pileup, so let me give him the space.
Time 1:55.27. That time was a 1:41.38. 141.42.
Yes, sir. This looks pretty good.
That time was a 141.49.
Oh, shit. Apps invalidated. This track is actually more fun than I remember. Oh, shit.
Great tantrum. Said. In my case I need to buy a new PC. That is way too expensive for me. I own a PS5 now and for me PSVR 2 seems like the next logical step if I want to play VR games again.
Well,
Great tantrum. Said. I do own a PC and it does some VR games alright but the Sims do struggle as I have an old GTX 1080 and Intel processor, which was top of the line back in 2016 to 17.
okay, let me pull over for this one. That was fun. That was fun. As far as, okay, so you got a PS5. So you're already halfway home. As far as Sims goes, if you're okay with GT7 being the only racing sim that will be available to you in VR, okay. But if you want to play ACC, Automobile Lista 2, F123, You want to play all those games in VR, you're going to need a PC. It's that simple. Flight sim games. You want to play flight sim games. In my opinion, no way around it. You have to get a PC. Now, granted that Aces of Thunder has a chance to scratch an itch because currently on PSVR 2, they do not have a multiplayer.
Said, PC racing on PC is okay as long I have ASW on and cut back the graphics down to mid or low.
That is the trade-off of having a PC with a how do I put it? Put it in light terms. I guess like the bottom line is the sim racing games that are on PC. If you want to see them in their best light, you got to spend a few dollars. There's no way around it. Automobilista 2, I call that a VR miracle because that game looks good on just about any PC. Out of all the PCs that I've had and out of all the headsets that I've had, Automobilista 2 looked good on every one of them. ACC, on the other hand, the first time I saw it, it looked like dog shit. I've had to upgrade PCs and upgrade headsets through the years to finally get to where I'm at right now. In your case, when I use that term, that PSVR is good for what it is, in your case, Tantrum, that would apply. You would have access to just about everything that's on PC. Most of the third-party games, you would have a sim racing game at your disposal with GT7. Aces of Thunder, it looks like it's going to be the first multiplayer flight game, combat game on PSVR. So I hope that doesn't disappoint. So that'll give you your flight. That'll
Great
give you your flight game fix.
Said, I should get Automobilista 2. But I already have Assetto Corsa.
If you got the original Assetto Corsa, then I don't think it's mandatory to get Automobilista 2, especially with all the mods out there. I mean, visually, Automobilista 2 is still the king. It's still the best looking. As far as the visuals goes, it's the best optimized racing game is VR. There's just no way around it. This game has delivered gameplay and gameplay physics. It's pretty much delivered what I wanted. Now,
Great Tantrum said, Half-Life Alyx seems to run fine on my system as long it is set to medium or so. Windlands 2 is awesome and Serious Sam VR.
Well, that's where having a beefy PC, naturally I had to see what Half-Life Alyx looked like on my main PC. And it looked incredible. Seeing it through pancake lenses with a 4090, because I was still on the Rift S when I played Half-Life Alyx, which I thought at the time, I thought the Rift S was a clear headset, but no. If you got a beefy enough PC, you can actually, I'll say this, and I actually said it before, and I knew I felt like this isn't going to set in well with people, but I'll say this. The Rift S, as old as that headset is, if you can connect it to a good enough PC, the Rift S can look just as good as PSVR 2, if not better. The only thing that stands out is the screen door. My weakest, you heard me say it 1,000 times. I got 3 PCs. My weakest PC has a 3070 Ti in it. I keep my Rift S connected to that PC because the Rift S is the least demanding out of all my headsets. I play Pavlov on that PC on the Rift S, and it looked about the same as Pavlov on PSVR 2. Maybe even a little bit sharper. It's just that the screen door was there.
Great Tantrum said, I can see the screen door on my Rift S. But for my system the Rift S is optimal for my setup. Higher resolution VR headsets will require a more powerful PC.
Exactly. And that was the whole point of me. The Rift S on my weakest headset. Because it still gets the job done. Whoa. Go ahead, I'm letting you go. Another hypercar.
Lap 157.57.
I scrubbed the shit out of those tires.
Great Tantrum said, on Project Cars 2 I had to turn on ASW or I would have to turn down the settings to medium or low and even lower the headset's resolution.
Project Cars 2 was the first racing game in VR that blew my mind. Because before I tried Project Cars 2, the only experience I've had with racing games in VR was Drive Club in VR, GT Sport in VR, which both of them were blurry.
That time was a 142.20.
Ooh. You know what? I think I'm gonna do a lap at Circuit de la Sarthe and drive one of the hypercars, and then we'll wrap it up. Something that I don't do much, but let's go ahead and do that. I prefer the GTEs. I love this Corvette. I'm a sucker for it for whatever reason. Let's go to Circuit de la Sarthe and jump in the...
Great Tantrum said, that must be hard to need to slow down to corner without skidding or going off the track. No ABS is no BS.
I'm used to it
LOL.
now. I'm used to it now. I should have taken the Ferrari just so you guys can hear the Ferrari, because you can hear the battery charging, and then when you hit the brakes, you hear this. Because I think that's the battery charging as you're hitting the brakes. So I could do a lap, because out of all the hypercars, even though it's a few years old, I like the Toyota GR010, the GR010. But I think the Ferrari hypercar makes the most interesting sound. So I'll do a lap or two with the Toyota hypercar, and then I'll close it out with the Ferrari. I personally think hypercars are kind of ugly, but I think the Toyota hypercar is a pretty slick looking car. Now, as far as like the front ends, I think the Ferrari and the Cadillac have the slickest looking front ends, but then after that, like that Cadillac looks like a really long ass car. The overall shape of the body, I think the Toyota hypercar is the best looking. Oh, that's right in my stomach. Damn, it ain't got much of a windshield. I guess we just gonna have to go with this. The Toyota Gazoo Racing. Damn. This picture is clear, though. I'm saying the hypercars are a little bit harder to drive because of how much they slide around. Damn, I feel like I'm scrunched up inside of this car with no room. I feel like I got...
Great Tantrum said, this car is for an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah.
Green flag, let's go.
It's a little bit more slidey, and it's not near as much force feedback. the cameras inside the car. I just lost my rear wing. It's on the ground. See it right there? I just lost my rear wing. Damn. Oh, there is damage. There is damage. All right, let's go get the Ferrari. So I'll let you guys hear the Ferrari and then we'll wrap it up. Ferrari got it. This Ferrari hypercar's got a really slick looking front end, but other than that, no. Out of the hypercars, I think the Porsche hypercar is the ugliest.
Great tantrum. Said. Just like that, the race is over.
Yeah. I think the hypercars are fun. This is the one game where I like all the cars. I like all the car classes. You know, I don't like these daily races on GT7 where, you know, the daily race A is everybody using the 1964 Beetle or something. No, I like race cars.
Great tantrum. Said. Damn, this game is hardcore discipline.
You ain't joking. That's why I love it. Because basically, you got to keep your own shit together, so you don't really have time to be a dirty racer on this game. You seen how quick I lost it and hit that damn wall. Pictures, no, it feels more. It looks more clear. Put the traction control.
Green flag, let's go.
Real life Ferrari sounds exactly like this. of these other cars is like disrespecting me. I don't know if I lost my wing or not. I believe I got a flat spot because I can feel the vibration. Oh, I definitely got a flat spot now. I didn't lose my wing yet, but it looks like I got some front end damage. You know what? Let me restart the race. Because I want to see if if that damage will still be there, or did that happen after, you know? Because before we were only seeing cosmetic damage. I mean we weren't seeing cosmetic damage. Let me see. So yeah, there is some damage. There was some damage there. So I'm not gonna do a whole race here. I'm just doing a lap or so, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Plus, I'm getting hungry. And the force feedback doesn't have as much resistance as the GT3 is the GTE cars.
Green flag, let's go.
Yeah, the car's damaged. You can. It's like you can see the wheel turning right there. It's. Yeah, take it. Oh yeah, look at that body work. Look at that body damage. Oh, that's probably where. Oh shit. Oh yeah, this car's showing the cosmetic damage. Because it didn't do this when the game first came out. You couldn't see the cosmetic damage. So you see how the body's all wavy, dirt, scuff, dents. Oh yeah. Ambush 2.
Great tantrum. Said. Alright Lincoln, I'm out. Have a good one.
I think I'm about to do the same, good sir, because I'm getting hungry. But I definitely enjoyed this conversation, putting around, doing a few laps. And yeah, I can't wait for this game to for the VR to go live. It is my _1 sim. I absolutely love this game. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Grab a bite to eat, take a nap, and see what tomorrow brings, or today by now. Thanks for watching, Tantrum. I really appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all on the next one. Until then, you all know the line: Wakanda forever, long live the king, and deuces. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you soon.